Okay, this is my second attempt at making a piece of pottery for a camera. I'm going to take some clay, put it around the little bolts that hold this bat pin, hold this bat down on the wheel. This is a new type of clay that I'm working with. It doesn't have a lot of grog in it, meaning like the sand. It kind of makes it like supported, like texture-wise. So I'm trying to learn, and I know I'm a little poofy because I have my vest on and my sweater on top of it, and it's really kind of cold in here, I'm not gonna lie. Okay, so first things first is you put the clay down, and I had kind of, it's brand new clay, so it doesn't have any air holes in it really, so all I have to do is cut it into chunks, and then I try to slap it down into ball types. It's supposed to be easier to, in theory, it's supposed to be easier to center that way. I don't know, this clay, it's so squishy for me. I just have to kind of manhandle it a little. So first you kind of make a dome. This dome's not centered. So I like going from the base, and sometimes I can find my center from the bottom and then work my way up. So once I create a dome, then I'll kind of push it over down in on itself, and that centrifugal force helps center it sometimes. Which actually worked pretty well on that one. Get some of my water out of the way. But it's not the easiest clay for me to work with. It's kind of dumb with me because I'm also trying to throw big with it, so it's like I can't really control it, and then on top of it I'm trying to do something more advanced, so I should probably be doing something smaller, but I don't know. It's really cold in the studio, and the water, the clay doesn't take on any my temperature, it's just cold. So the bigger I throw, the less pieces I can make, but the less I have to make then. I'm going to break in once it's centered pretty much for me. Just kind of make a hole. I like this kind of sponge. It's more of a natural and it's softer, like a lamb's ear. So now once I make the hole, I'm going to pull it in, and you got to do this very slow and evenly. And I'm literally just kind of creating a cavern. So I went down and then pulled back with just my fingers. So now there's like a cavern, and I'm just gonna compress the floor, which means I go from the outside back to the midline, center of the floor of the clay, the middle of the pottery, to kind of get the clay to, the molecules in the clay to kind of compress next to each other really tightly, because what happens is, I gotta be careful with this, it's so soft I can go down further than I want to, and then I'll just make a potter, and that's not worth it. But if you spread the clay too fast, it spreads, and if you don't compress it back together, when you go to fire it, it'll get a stress fracture, and all this time and effort that you put into this one piece of thing has a crack in it, and you can't do anything about that. So you gotta practice the basics. Always take the time to compress the floor. And now I'm doing something called, I'm opening the walls up, meaning I'm trying to make that cavern more into a bowl shape almost. I'm gently using the two sides of my fingers to kind of come together and make it more vertical. Which I would show my camera, but I don't want to get my phone all gross. So now I'm going to do something called a pull, which is where I'm trying to gently guide clay up with this inside hand and then following up with this outside finger. And you want to do it super slow. And you're just kind of encouraging the clay to work its way up. You don't want to go too thin too fast. Like I always want to do, especially with this clay, since it's so squishy, I tend to want to put too much pressure in it. If you can see see these nice compressed little rings, that's how you know that you're doing good consistent. And then you compress the lip, just because you don't want, the lip is sensitive, it's, you know, or vulnerable. You want to make sure that it's compressed so the molecules are structurally close together and, you know, able to withstand, like if in case you happen to hit it or something. And I got a little, I dug my hand into it a little bit, so I got a little wobble in the lip. Now you can use a tool and just cut that off, but I just leave it. Usually it'll work its way out in the end. So now this is where I'm starting to get to the point where I can't touch this hand to this hand to brace against itself. So I'll have to kind of, eventually I just kind of have to have a sense of intuition to feel where the other finger's at in space through the wall. And it's something that you have to slowly develop, the sense of intuition, to know how much pressure to be pressing on the other side. Get a little excess. Okay, and compress the lip. This clay is so soft. It's like, it reminds me of working with porcelain, which is the hardest thing I've ever had to work with. I describe it as like working with wet baby powder. It just feels like super soft, and like anything you do, you can just mess it up. Like afraid to breathe. I got a good pull going. Feels pretty consistent, pretty even. I'm almost done. There you go. That was a good one. And it kind of recentered itself. That little thing in the lip kind of fixed itself. I'm not going to do any more pulls, because I think if I do, I'm gonna make it too thin, and I'm already feeling the thickness of the walls. It's already kind of thin. So here's what I keep messing up. I need to figure out how much pressure, I'm just kind of getting water up the wall, how much pressure to, because I want this to be more of a dome, like a wide bowl. I need to figure out how much pressure needs to go on it to open up so that I don't thin out and get, because my walls keep collapsing. I keep doing it, I keep rushing myself. I'm gonna try to do this super slow. I'm going from the bottom. I'm just gonna slowly encourage the wall to stretch from the inside out. Maybe what I've been doing in the past is supporting too much with the outside hand, and it's been kind of pseudo pulling, doing a pull. So maybe I'm just leading with the inside hand. That seems a little bit nicer. Nice, okay. I think it has a nice silhouette. I'm gonna compress the lip. Got a little bit. Compress the lip. You could do this gently. I'm going to get some of this excess water out. Just sop it up. It's really thick. Since this clay doesn't have a lot of grog in it, it kind of becomes like almost sludgy as the particles dilute in the water as I'm making it. It doesn't, which I like because it feels pretty smooth. Now you can just leave it. I like having my hand lines in it showing that it's handmade, but you can take like a little tool like this and scrape into it. I'm a little afraid of needles because I've messed up a few little holes, but we'll just try this one. All I'm doing is I'm trying to create the curvature. Like I said, I've messed this up a few times. I'm just gonna leave it alone. Like I think I'd be doing fine, and then all of a sudden I'll just like catch it right into the corner. So I think this is a pretty good shape. I'm just gonna wipe off all the excess crap off the wheel. And then I take this little tool and, well, first I'm gonna use this part and kind of just scratches off some of the excess clay around the bottom, like that. And then I take the sharp part and I have it lay right along the side of the wheel. And then I take my string and I hold it down next to the wheel. I'm going to take it off and let it dry for a little bit because it's super soft. Looks pretty good. Yay! That one actually turned out.